Okay, so thank you very much for being here, and
Thank you.
Jean-Val
Thank
will
you
start.
for being here. The idea is not to teach anything, it's just to give some seeds to reflections about many issues. In Gospel of Thomas, the living Jesus said, "Those who seek the truth should not stop seeking until they find. But when they find, they will be disturbed. After having been disturbed, they will be astonished. After they will rule over everything, and having reigned, they will rest." Strange words coming from the living Jesus. Why living Jesus? Because Jesus has already died at this time. Here we are talking about the resurrected Jesus, talking to his brother called Thomas in the fifth gospel. And the question is, why did Jesus say that when we find the truth, we'll be? This is the question. Why did he say that? The cosmic revelation uh, has its goal exactly when we begin to understand how many matters, how many issues, how many secrets, how many important knowledge were hidden, lost, and destroyed during all our history. So to rescue all this, trying to rescue those pages of unknown history, is that exactly what we're trying to do. All these books means mean that our planet is isolated from the coexistence with other civilizations, planets, people, etc. Since 5, 6, 700,000 years ago, we are isolated from being with contact with other people. When I say something very wrong, you can correct me, please. And this, why we, why, who did that with us, and why? So, if you pay attention, we have many strange things, strange uh, happenings, and we don't know anything about it. The first thing we have to realize is that our main knowledge, today we'll call it mythology. Mythology for us is story. Mythology for us is legend, is something that's not true. It's so strange because the Vatican today, today, not today,
This week.
this week, yesterday, the last Saturday, published a guideline to give instructions to the bishops of the world. How do they have to lead, handle with strange situations that are happening all the time during the last years? And the press, no, the press doesn't say anything. Nobody give us some kind of truth about it. We don't know anything. We think it's funny story. It's a joke. But in our days, everything that mythology told us in the ancient times is happening exactly while we're talking here in this room. Those strange people, not human people, that appeared in those pages, mythology pages in the past, many of them, you were talking about the same people, the same strange entities or persons, but not human. Some of them continue to do now what they did 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15,000 years ago. And we don't know anything about it. But the Vatican knows. knows. Why, when we find the truth, we feel disturbed? Because the truth is uncomfortable. It's not easy to live with that. And Jesus, the man Jesus, not the resurrected Jesus, the man Jesus as a man discovered at the end of his life. And why did Jesus said, those who seek the truth will, when they find, will be disturbed? Because he was disturbed when they finally found or figured out that his Abba, the God of the Jews, called Jehovah in English, Elizabethanian English or something like that, we'll call Javeh or Yahweh, but Jehovah is the right way to call him. Jehovah, who the sweet Jesus thought he's strange. And we have to realize one day that when he was born, he was destined to be a Messiah, to be a strong man, a hero who used his great powers to oppress everybody on earth and to take all humanity, all mankind, to give to Jehovah's control. Jehovah lost his control talking about humanity, when Eve not ate an apple, but when Eve drank some kind of drink. Today we can call cannabis, ayahuasca, I don't know how can I say this in English, shamanism, ayahuasca. That's what we know when we assess the knowledge we have in spirituality. Eve drank something that somebody gave to her, and somebody here is a long history to explain. But when Eve drank that thing, she opened her mind. She had a mind expansion,
Consciousness.
consciousness expansion, and said, Adam, drink it. So at that time, I don't know how can I say this in English, but the travas, lacres e códigos bloqueadores no cérebro.
Locks or seals were unlocked. She kind of opened her mind up.
Because of
Let's call this a potion, and this potion that she took, the same way it happens today, it kind of altered her perception of reality, and she could see a little bit clearer how things were actually going. So that's what happened at that point.
And the being called Jehovah, that is not human, since then lost his control and lost his control over the mankind. And Jesus was the one who was prophesied to be the Messiah, to be the
person appointed.
person of Jehovah who will take everybody to his control again. Jesus, when he was born, he was educated. He received all the informations about the Jews' sacred scriptures. And when he read it, he saw he was the one who was prophetized. And everybody around him, his mother, his friends, his brothers, his sisters, not his father, Joseph, but all the rest, they are sure, they were sure that one day Jesus will be invested as a kind of emperor or something like that, because he had superpowers. Jesus showed his superpowers, but not to lead or to enforce anybody. He used his superpower to support the poor people, the vulnerable persons, sick people, not to use his force to be a to be a king, to be a. In many pages of the Gospels, Mary, his mother, his brothers, his friends, when will you be invested? Assume the paper, the function, the role you were born to do it. And he used to say, my kingdom is not from this world. I'm a king, all right, but I will be not a king here. No, but it's prophesied that you cannot change one command in the whole scriptures. So he said, I am the one, but I will not do it. I will not use power to
Subjugate.
subjugate anybody. We don't realize this issue, but it's the most important fact in Jesus' life. Do not talk, do not speak anything about this issue, about this matter. Some months before he died, Jesus called Peter, John, and his brother James and said to them, come to me to a mountain. We are going to spend the night right there. And there some angels appeared to Jesus and to the other men. They fell down, sleeping. They began to sleep, Peter, John, and his brother. And those angels, in its written in gospel, São de Jesus, Transfiguration of Jesus. And what happened at that moment? These angels said to Jesus, why don't you invest? Why don't you use your powers to do what
You're
expected to do? You are feeling anything strange because our God, Jehovah, your father called Hakima in Hebrew language and Sophia in Greek, in later Greek. The one who gave the seed to put in your mother Mary for you to be born, all of them are waiting for you. And Jesus said, I will be not the one who will do this. I will do it in a different way. Jehovah, my Abba, or something like that, created the old alliance. And I will do a new alliance between Jehovah and mankind, but not using the force. I will use love and enlightenment. The angels looked to Jesus and asked him, are you sure about it? Perhaps because now you are a man, you are acting and thinking like a man, but you are wrong because you have to obey the rules that are in your blood, DNA, and you have to do it. Nós vamos retirá-lo da terra.
We're going to take you
from earth if you do not obey and do not interfere. We are going to interfere, said the angels, because perhaps your human condition is blocking his perceptions. It's your perceptions. So at this time, Jesus used his powers to transfigurate his body and spoke to angels in a kind of language that only they know because it's a language of another dimension of life, as if he was trying to prove to them that he really knows what he was trying to do, and said, "Do not interfere." So the angel said, "So you have to prepare yourself to die because you are going to be or apedrejado
Stoned.
or crucified." So after that, Jesus, for the first time, said to his apostles and disciples that I'm gonna die. I'm going to die. But nobody believed in him because he had superpowers. Nobody believed that he was speaking in a serious way. But he said many, many times, "I'm gonna die, but in 3 days I will resurrect." Resurrected. Nobody believed him. But during 8 months before the day he died, he said this news to the people who lived with Jesus, including his family. And they continued to ask Jesus, "When are you going to be the Messiah that we are waiting for?" And Jesus said many, many times, eu não vou conseguir.
I can't do it.
I can do it. I know I am the Messiah, but I can do it. My human condition can do that. Nobody in 2,000 years of history appointed this fact, appointed this page of Jesus' life. But and I'm going to repeat myself, it's the most important fact in Jesus' life. Because Jesus was putting a finish in millions of years of a strange history that we don't know. But what we call today mythology knew. And everything is written in Aryan or Hinduism mythology, Chinese mythology, German mythology, Celtic mythology, Nordic mythology. All these pages, they have a kind of relation with the position of Jesus, postura de Jesus, his behavior. He was doing with his acts, we call in Portuguese chutar o pau da barraca.
He was throwing everything out. He was kind of holding everything in.
And yeah, so he didn't do it what the holy scriptures of the Jews said about the Messiah, and this is why he was crucified. But the night before his crucifixion, he asked his father, "Abba, leave me this cálice."
Free me from this burden. Free me from
Something like that.
the English word. I'm not sure. Something like that.
I will do what you want from me, but I will do not my power. Jehovah said, "No, you have to use the power we are just before no, I can't do it, so you have to be crucified. And do not use your powers to escape from.
avoid
This is your castigo, punishment. What I'm telling to you now is what we know in spirituality, but nobody.
Can I interrupt just for 1 second?
Please help me.
Just to synthesize a little bit what he's trying to explain is that he's trying to show the conflict that Jesus had between what he was supposed to telling for thousands of years what the Messiah would do and what his human being felt like. Because after he was born, the way that he thought and the way that he acted here on earth is different than the way and the perceptions that the angels have and that spirituality has. When you become a living person, you're incarnated here, you start to have a different conscience. And you started to realize that, wait a minute, why do I have to use the force to bring the word of my father or bring them to my father if I can do this in a different way? The problem was that nobody was expecting him to act that way. They were expecting somebody to come and say, this is the way it's going to be. Follow me, and through me, you're going to achieve enlightenment. You're going to come to Jehovah. So what Jehovah was trying to explain is that thousands of years opposed the way that it was supposed to be. He said, no, I'm going to do it a different way. And then eventually he was going to, that's what they said, you're going to die then because we're not going to save you, we're not going to help you, and you can't, he's not going to allow us to do that. So eventually, just a few days before the crucifixion, he was speaking to his father and said, can you please, take this burden off of me? And he said, no, you didn't follow the plan. You didn't do what I told you to do. So it's up to you now. You're going to have to, pay the price for the way you led things up until now.
I'm paying him a good salary to do
that. She has one question, and then I'll give it to you.
So, if Jesus is a son of God, then he's the son of Jehovah. And if Jehovah isn't human, then why is Jesus human? And is he a hybrid human? His DNA is different.
Yeah, but not. It's a long history. If I tell you, one story, long story, because the only way we have to understand your question is if we really knew about what the Hindu and Aryan mythology talk about it. Because, and I'll try to do it, right? In the last 23,000 years, what we call in English the maximum glacial age, or something like that. So, since 23,000 years ago, it began climate, esquentamento da atmosfera, global warming, and many of the ice became to melt. At this time, in the south of the Hindu continent, now we have an island called Sri Lanka, right? But at that time, 23,000 years ago, it was part of it, connected, right? So at this time, there was in this region a culture called Kumari Kandan. Kumari Kandan, right? Because at the south, the India continent, there was another continent that there is no more, called Kumari Kandan, or Mu, the legendary Mu, Lemuria, exactly. So at this time, the god called Shiva or Siva began to appear to the Dravidians, that was the Hindus' ancestral people, and other peoples who lived in this. And Shiva produced some avatars of himself, and those began to say that Shiva is the one. Shiva was the main god, the ruler of the universe, because Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, they disputed who
was in command.
who's in command. So this is what the mythology says. When Shiva did that in the south of India, Brahma and Vishnu talking with each other, Brahma said, "Oh, mankind, and I have to do something like that, but different from Shiva and Vishnu. Brahma could not produce ever because it has
an incomplete state of being.
Yeah,
Put it that way to simplify it.
Because at the beginning of this creation, he fell down into his own creation. It's another story. So Vishnu said to Brahma, "You cannot produce an avatar as Shiva did, but I will give you one, emprestar, loan one. I have Hakima, who is somebody biological and live in the neighbor universe, because Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they live in the antimaterial universe that is neighboring ours. And they had created one. Now I'm talking about the Trimurti. The Trimurti was already created. Hakima is that means personification of knowledge, or something like that. And Hakima is the only one who lives in this universe that we live today, and all of the rest of these beings lived in the neighbor universe. So Vishnu said to Brahma, Shiva is acting on earth, so I will ask Hakima to try to find a way to produce a human avatar as Shiva did. And here we're talking about Krishna, about Anhata, many people. So Brahma, right, and Vishnu give an order to Hakima, figure out how can Vishnu Hakima born as a man on earth. So Hakima and his angels, here we're about biological people, they find a way to inseminação artificial. Yeah. So Hakima took his own DNA, programmed his DNA in accordance to the rules or orders that he received from Vishnu and Brahma.
By the way, Brahma is Jehovah, right?
Brahma is Jehovah, right? It's the same.
Yeah, same thing, okay?
And Mary found herself pregnant. And if we look, and now we say, oh, Mary was the chosen one. Choose Mary here about a kind of crime, about
She hadn't been married yet. She was to Joseph. So, and she was very young. So it's a very strange situation. Coming to her to be husband and said, happen, you know. So that's what he's saying about being something that was put against her, you know, because it just happened, and she wasn't aware of it. Nobody was aware of it. By the time they found out, only after Jesus was born, that they started to realize that there was a meaning behind that. But when he says it's a violence because she wasn't in accordance with that. She wasn't told that. Nobody knew that was going to happen. It was an imposition on her.
But is this why the Hindus say that Jesus was an avatar of Vishnu?
Yes. And if it's the truth is disturbing. This is a problem. And it looks like, and Jesus figured out, realized it during his life that it was not a sacred thing. It was not a good thing. It was a strange thing. Not a bad thing, but strange. So Jesus feels the power he had and feels vontade de fazer.
The will to do.
But something in his human condition couldn't do it.
Because one thing that they didn't realize was that when they inseminated Mary, is that she was going to be putting her DNA also into the new offspring, and that could have different consequences, which the angels were not aware of. So what happened was that they thought he was going to be 100% following their orders, but since there was an interaction with her own DNA too, that human part that he's talking about started to change things a little bit, you know? So he started to, wait a minute, why do I have to act this way? Why do I have to do things this way? And I don't think the angels were prepared for that. They didn't think that was going to happen. So that's what he says about the human Jesus starting to realize different things, is that he had a portion also, but it had part of Mary.
So if we are talking about the truth is strange. Please realize it, right? We're not. There is a question?
Yeah.
What I think, Jesus did exactly what he was meant to do. He became the king. He was aware he is the king. He just acted in a different way as most people expected how kings behave. Jesus was not a king who had people below him. He was a king that had followers, and that's not by force. He wasn't putting his will onto the people. The will had to come from the people to follow him. So that was the difference maybe that I figured out. Yeah.
He went about love.
Yeah,
Nobody
by love.
else.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Jesus was the first one actually who talked about love.
Yeah.
Back in those days, the concept of love
Yeah.
didn't actually exist.
Yeah.
People got married by whatever, you married him, you married it. There was no love actually. He was the first one who talked about love, and the love that comes from the light, from the far, or from the light. Yeah, the light that gives you the love. So he was the first one who introduced that concept into the people that nobody was aware of. So, and that's why most people didn't understand what he was talking about, because it was a completely new concept of love.
That's correct. Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to get that in. Thank you.
My question is just,
Like, has humankind not taken over the role that Jesus was meant to have initially? Because humans use force regularly, still, and they use force to make people follow religions. So, for example, Catholics would kill people who converted about Mary with Catholicism, and with Irish history. An unmarried mother, they would throw you into a home and hide you away from the world, when in fact their whole religion is based on a young woman becoming pregnant who wasn't married, etc. So are humans not carrying out that role anyway? Have we how can I
I
explain
don't
it?
think we're carrying out the same role in the same way that it was intended for Jesus.
Okay.
But as Val explains in some of his books, there's a big difference between Christianity and Catholicism.
Okay.
And when Christianity started to disappear, and the new texts and the new information came around the 3rd century of the Catholicism, a lot of that information, the old scriptures that spoke of, and all the things that happened in the past were put aside, and they just decided, okay, these are the books that we're going to follow. This is going to be a loving God. It's going to be somebody that everybody should be devoted to. And then the Catholic Church started this, let's say, oppression of crusades, yes, to start to enforce that. And Jehovah didn't appreciate that either. Now these people are doing what they want to. So then 2 centuries later, through Gabriel, he went to a different person, was Muhammad, and said, okay, now I'm going to give you the new truth. The same person again, with a different name, now Allah. I'm going to give you the new truth. And then he tried again to start a new religion, a new following, where would be in place. So at a certain point, you're right. This so-called loving God would come back and try to religion, things on top of people. And I think eventually humanity start to kind of think that way, act that way. So yes, people, suffering under oppression and dictatorships and a lot of things like that. But I don't think that it was Jesus never really assumed that role, and eventually that gave maybe feel the opportunity to do that, right? I hope I understand.
Thank you.
I kind of interrupted him, sorry.
Please.
Thank you.
Do not forget your salary.
Yeah.
So my question's about what Jesus came like for to teach. Should be, I don't know if it is right to affirm that maybe he tried to equalize the human race as like the angels, like to look more the equal to equal. I don't know how to put in words what I mean. It's like he's trying to teach us, like they say, Jesus come to show us how to make it. And giving the example, he's trying maybe this to erase a
Bar.
Huh?
Or the level.
yeah, to a level of more the human race, not to look up and put the head down and to be so servant. I feel inferior because I'm human body. Maybe he tried to make like the same. I don't know how to.
I have many difficulties to explain to you what I suppose would be probably truth about it, because there is, I don't know if I will say in English, but you help me with that. And I know you have a question. Today, the scholars look at Jesus' life and they saw 3 faces of Jesus. 3. When Jesus died, his apostles, 11 apostles, because Judas died. The 11 they were hiding, because they are afraid to
Be caught also.
Roman Empire that,
Would catch them.
yeah. So their vision is Jesus give lessons just to Jewish people. And everything they did after that was in accordance to this kind of vision. Jesus was a Jew,
They're
and
taught to do-
everything that he did was for Jews, not for the other people. So, in this interpretation, the Jews had to be submit to Jehovah's Father or God or something like that. But after that, Jesus looked at all the situation and said to himself, well,
This didn't go right.
yeah. So strangely, he looked for another man who worked at Synedrium called Saul and asked him, please help me give my lessons to all the people.
Mankind. Jesus had already died by then. This is after his crucifixion.
Yeah.
He presented himself to Saul.
So Saul was a man who persecuted Christians, right? Look for, but they don't want to talk to Saul because they are afraid of him, because he was the Synedrium man that persecute Christians. So Saul said, Jesus appeared to me, and they said, you are crazy. Jesus, you never did. No, he appeared and
Spread the word.
the apostle support Saul, changed his name to Paul, and as a Christian called Paul, Saul began to see it, Jesus' words in many, many places, many, many cities, and from this emerged many, many churches. But Paul created two concepts that were completely different from what Jesus really said. And a little detail, Saul didn't know personally Jesus, never met him alive. So Paul said or Paul taught the salvation as an important concept. Jesus never opened his mouth to speak about salvation. And Paul said that we have to have only faith that everything is all right. So to get your salvation, you have just to
Be a believer.
be a believer. Jesus said exactly the opposite. Jesus said, a cada será dado conforme suas obras.
Will be given in accordance to each one. The reward will be given in accordance to their actions.
Yeah.
Something
So
like that.
Jesus talking about actions, and Paul was talking about belief, faith. So the apostles built one church, and Paul built dozens. But these ones talk about Jesus, the Christ, that means ungido in Português.
Anointed.
So, during his life, Jesus never was called by Jesus Christ. The term Christ began to appear only in those churches that Paul was
Great.
created, because Paul created the second face of Jesus, Jesus Christ, the super one, the super God. The apostles had created the Jesus, the Galileu, o Samaritano, the man.
Samaritan.
Samaritan.
So I said to you that the scholars today saw three faces in Jesus. So
Samaritan.
the Samaritan, the Christ is the second, but which is the third? Here is complex, because when he created after his death Paul, and he created Mary Magdalene. He, as a resurrected entity, began to explain to these disciples that even being Jews, but they were created in cities whose kind of education was the Hellenism
Yeah, from Greece.
from Greece. So they are Jews, but they have a
An open
better comprehension and open mind. So the resurrected Jesus began to explain to Mary and to this group many different things that they had explained to his apostles, because he found the truth. He was astonished, disturbed, when he realized at the last moment of his life, when he wasn't preso à cruz,
Attached
Yeah,
to the cross.
to the cross, that Jehovah iria manter até o fim o castigo imposto a ele.
Wouldn't open hand.
He would maintain the punishment all the way to the end.
When he says, Pai, por que me abandonaste?
Father, why have you forsaken me?
So we have to understand, we have to realize, by another point of view, all the life of Jesus is completely different from what Vatican Catholicism told us. So here, third face of Jesus born, and it's called the living Jesus, because he was dead, but he continued to act. So in Thomas' Gospel, as I said, is written, the living Jesus said, those who seek the truth should not stop seeking until they find. So the living Jesus is because Jesus as a resurrected man or being, continue to speak, but we have to realize this species of Jesus in this situation was completely different from what the apostles had heard. So here, 70 years after his his death, we had more than 4,000 gospels about Jesus' life. The scholars say
It's a fact.
it's a fact. And if we ask ourselves, which of these three faces was the most important one in the end of the first century? No doubt about it. No shout of doubt about it. The third one. So, in the second century, in 140 o ano 140 depois de Cristo,
140 after Christ.
after Christ, a man called Marcion, who lived in Sinop, a city of nowadays in Turkey, a Turkish city of Sinop, became a bishop of Christian church. This time there was not Catholic church, right? That
There was no pope.
there is no pope. There are many churches. Each church had his bishop, his books, and each one queria ser melhor, queria ser mais verdadeiro
Each one wanted to be the most important
than the
top
others.
of the others.
So at this time, the most important church that was in the Christian was the Marcion of Sinop, bigger than the Roman church that was Christian, not Catholic at this time. And Marcion thought that the God of the Old Testament, there was one strange God, and Jesus talked or was talking, Jesus talked about another God. Marcion was the man who created the idea of a wonderful God, a perfect God, a kind of God that had nothing to do with this creation that really belongs to Jehovah's history. Marcion was the one who said, the one God called Barbelo, who lives in a place called Pleroma. I'm using the Greek words that he used. So Jesus was the one who is linked to Barbelo, to Pleroma. And Jesus confront Jehovah because Jehovah is the Sophia, called in Greek epinoia, who fell down in his own creation and became this strange God called Brahma, Jehovah, and etc. So Marcion is the most important person in terms of explaining what Jesus did. The first canon is a Greek word that was created in the Christianism was Marcion of Sinop who did it. But in the 4th century, in the beginning of the 4th century, Constantine, Roman emperor, influenced by his mother Helena, became Christian, and so Christianism was
The official religion of Rome.
from a persecuted religion. Now the Christianism was the one official religion of the Romans. So we're talking here about religion that was from East and now was an European religion. Now Jesus, that was bandido,
An outlaw.
Criminal.
a criminal, now he was a hero.
They went from being persecuted now to being the chosen ones, the correct ones.
So in the year of 325, in a city called Nicaea, a concilio,
Council.
Constantine called all the bishops of that time to decide one question. Arian was a bishop that said Jesus was a man who enlightened his own important. But all of the rest of the bishops believed that Jesus was God. So this council was called, was to resolve to decide if the Arianism or the Trinitarianism will be the canon of the new religion called Catholic, not more only Christian. So here in Nicaea, the Arianism was cancelled and a Santíssima Trindade foi criada.
A Holy Trinity.
A Holy Trinity was created, and for the Catholic people now, Jesus was not a man, but equal to God. But which God we're talking about? Not the God of the Jews, the strange God of the Jews. Another kind of God that nobody until today know who is he. And all the religions of ancestral time had a Trinity, so the Catholic people in Europe want a Trinity too. So the Holy Spirit was created at this time. Jesus never said anything about the Holy Spirit of the truth and the Paraclete, the Spirit of consolation. I don't know if my words are correct. But in the 4th century, when the Christianism became Catholic, the Holy Spirit, the God, and Jesus, the Saint Trinity, with this creation, all of teachings of Jesus were forgotten because the face of Jesus that the Catholic Church, the first Pope was called Damasus. So Damasus chose the face of Jesus. So they forgot Jesus the man, Jesus the living one who said many things, and a man called Anastasio, bishop of Alexandria in the year 376. He wrote an order to destroy it. All those books that came from Jesus the living one. The monkeys of San Pacomio, a monastery in Egypt, in the year 307-8, they were translated to a language from Egypt, from the Greek, this kind of language. All of these books the living Jesus said had dictated and hidden down in a cave near the place of San Pacomio's monastery called Nag Hammadi. Nag Hammadi in Egypt. And it was in the 4th century. In 1945, the last century, some people discovered these manuscripts in Nag Hammadi. In 1947, 2 years later, os manuscritos do Mar Morto também foram encontrados. So, in 45, even manuscripts and so at that time, everything about the living Jesus was canceled, and the church, the Catholic Church, imposes the face of Jesus Christ, and Damasus invited a man called Geronimo, who was trusted by all of the other churches, to translate from Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek to the language, official language of Roman Empire, Latin. So Geronimo wrote in Latin 73 books, 46 that belongs to what he called Old Testament, and 27 books that we know as a New Testament. But pay attention. These 27 books, we have 21 epistles, 4 Gospels, one book called Atos dos Apóstolos,
Apostles Act.
and the other one is Apocalypse. Pay attention, we have 21 epistles and just 4 Gospels. It means that the vision of Paul, he wrote 17 from these 21 epistles. The Catholic Church is more Paul than Jesus. The Catholic Church follows the Paul instead of Jesus' teachings. So your question, what Jesus really thought to mankind was completely lost, because unsuccessfully, in fact, when he was alive, he thought that the man had to be submit to Jehovah. But he didn't do it with his own self what he thought to mankind. We have to know, we have to realize this detail, right? And when he was resurrected, so now, in this condition, he thought that the mankind must be free. So he changed his mind. It's what the scholars today think about it.
And you have to remember, when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, church did everything they could, these documents. They tried to obtain them and to purchase them so people couldn't study them and find out what was written in them. So that's all their troubles and everything they do to try to put away the history that they don't want to be brought to light. Let's put it that way.
I think
She has one question.
has one
Can I, or would you like to?
No, it's just an addition.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
Go for it.
It's true to say there's something with the Santo Sudarium,
The holy
tissue
tissue
Sudarium.
over
I
the
will
body.
tell you what I suppose I know from spirituality, right? It's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
And the future, I think there's something for the future.
It's real. It's really real, right?
Before I pass the microphone to her so that she can ask her question, I maybe say this to make it a little clear.
Please.
Some of the things.
I pay you a good salary too.
I mean, the information that he brings in his books and lectures, we call it cosmic revelation. That's the name we use to refer to this new information he's bringing, right? So the one of the first aspects that really differ the questions from the others, let's put it like that, is the concept of the creation of the universe. Okay, he says, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he says that this universe that we live in was not the first one to be created. There were many universes before, but before the first universe created, there is what he calls higher spirituality. That is something that has always existed, was never created, and this all these universes, all these creations that started happening at a certain point are created within reality, because there's nothing really outside of it. It's it has no boundaries. It is eternal. It has always existed. It was never created, and nothing can be created outside of it, because there is no outside of it. It involves the whole thing, right? So this universe that we live in was actually the first problematic one to be created. How lucky are we, huh? But that's what he says, right? And
And that's what the mythology says.
yeah, I mean, when I say he says, it's based on information that he receives from spirits, astrology studies, right? As Morrissey said in the beginning, he connects the dots in this work. So, and as he said, this is not to impose a point of view. This is just for us to think, right? Why is the creation the way it is? Why a lion has to eat a zebra? Why do we have to eat corpses? Why all of a sudden a meteor can hit the earth and destroy the whole thing? Why there's flooding now in Brazil, in the south of Brazil, and 357 cities are gone, and a lot of people are. Why is it wars after wars after wars? Why is our DNA programmed to impose the strength on top of the weak, on to subjugate the weak? Why is the Hebrew God Jehovah as a being who wants to be obeyed, who wants to control, who wants to make the Hebrew people the most important people in the whole world, so he could, through the Hebrew people, control the planet? Why does he say, like, Abraham, kill your? Why does a God do this kind of things, right? Why does he? Why did Mary have to be pregnant at 15, like that? Why? So there's a lot of questioning. Why? And the answer is because this is a problematic creation in the first place. So that's the first big thing that it's important to try to understand more or less, right? And the second big thing is when Jehovah created this universe, he wasn't Jehovah, he was something else. But he fell inside his own creation and rebuilt itself without the consciousness, the awareness that he had prior to the creation. And this being that was rebuilt inside the creation is who we call Jehovah or Brahma or Allah. There are several different names. Ymir in the Nordic mythology. Yeah, his ego was inside this creation, and the name we give to this personification is Jehovah, or there are more than 20, 30 different names, right? Uh, and when he created this creation, two things emerged, two universes emerged. The first one is the material one, and the second one is the anti-material one. But they are all mixed together. There's no a division, and all of these beings existed. The life first emerged in the anti-material universe. That's where Jehovah, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Odin, Zeus, a whole bunch of beings came from, right? And at a certain point, life migrated from this antimaterial universe to our universe because of several reasons. It's hard to talk like very fast about it, but at a certain point, life came to this side of the creation, and then at years ago, more or less, life emerged on Earth. The DNA molecule was inseminated here on Earth. It didn't just came from nothing. It was brought here. Million years, 200,000, sorry, 200 million, no, 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens species emerged here on Earth as the most recent species in the whole creation. So a lot of history from the antimaterial universe contained and described in the mythologies. A lot of things conveyed Earth. And as he was saying, when Shiva started acting, Brahma also wanted to act, and he couldn't act the same way as Shiva due to his condition. He couldn't create avatars. So he created this plan of controlling the planet through his Messiah called Jesus, right? But prior to that, he had tried with Adam, then with Seth, then with Enos, with Cainan, Malalahel, Enoch, Jared, Noah, and all until Jesus, right? All this genealogy until Jesus. So all of these is just to try and make it a little clear, because I believe he's gonna talk other things, and maybe I felt like it was important to mention this so that you could
So when
maybe
you
understand it a little better.
discover that, we feel disturbed.
And I'm gonna pass it to her because she was waiting, and then I'll all right.
I have too many questions, so I'll just ask one maybe. So there were tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, so they had many gods and many practices, but Yahweh was the one. Who is Yahweh then in
Jehovah.
relation to Jehovah? Same.
The same. Yeah.
Okay, now that's clear. And so Mary, you said that she was aware that her DNA would be passed on to Jesus. Her DNA, then they were Essenes, and her mother was and grandmother were Essenes, yeah, from Mount Carmel, no?
Translate, please, the last
She's
word.
asking if the DNA of Mary comes from a certain area called
Mount Carmel.
Mount Carmel.
The Essenes,
Yeah.
the Pharisees, the Essenes, and what's the other one?
Mount Carmelo.
Yeah, but take care. The main thing, or the main issue, if we're going to DNA, right? We have to come back to the time of Jacob, when Jacob had 12 sons, and the last one was called Benjamin. And from these 12 tribes, or 12 sons of Jacob, they went to Egypt, and after that they became slaves. After that, Moses freed them and go to the desert. During more than 50 years, they walk in the desert. And after that, the 12 Jewish tribes decide to elect a king. The first one was called Saul, the second one David, the third one Solomon. But when the Solomon's son called Roboam was chosen the king of the 12 tribes, took place in 1922, 922 before Christ, what they call schisma. The 12 tribe, well, 10 tribes that called Israel, the north of kingdom of Jewish, and two of the 12 tribes became a kingdom called Judah. Judah. So during 2 centuries, the Assyrian people, that was the biggest emperor at that time, tried to conquer those both kingdoms of Jewish, but they didn't. But in 1722, finally, the Assyrian people conquered the 10 tribes of Israel, and these 10 tribes were levadas para como prisioneiro. The Assyrian emperor was too big that the 12 tribe, the tribe of Benjamin, was taken to Gallia in France. Yeah. So their descendants, after the after some time, to Galilee in the east area, means little Galilee, because they came from Galia, France. So Anna, mother of Mary, she was somebody completely different from the other women that belongs that the Jewish of Galilee are different from the other Jewish of Judea, Samaria, because they had a kind of European blood because of miscegenation that took place in this history of the Benjamin tribe, the 12th son of Jacob. So Mary had a kind of DNA Celtic, right? Some kind Celtic, some kind Scotland, some kind European. And if we are going to see this in terms of Celtic mythology and Scotland and Nordic mythology, we will understand a problem that of this kind of DNA is not to
Be submissive.
It's not meant to be subjugated.
Yeah.
It's a more free DNA.
Yeah, the monarchy, the Great Britain did everything to conquer Ireland, Scotland, but this DNA here wants to be free. So something in Mary passed to his son Jesus in this. Right? Did you understand? Monte Carmelo is not very important in this conception, right?
Sorry.
Monte Carmelo is not very important in this concept, right?
Just a question. As we came like from this experience, from this being that is like an ego, and for us now humans, as human race. So what is the chance, or what you're going to do, you should do to get in contact direct with the source? And second inside this question is, do you know this Urantia book?
Yeah.
This Avona Island
Yeah.
should be really a source, or a source from this corner of the galaxy, or like this arm of the galaxy. And there's a way that we can connect with the real source, passing through all this messed up. Thank you.
I don't know if I really understood, but let me tell you. There are many important revelations. Okay, Urantia is one of them, right? Urantia, just for you to know, is a kind of revelation that appeared in the middle of the last century in the United States, coming from extraterrestrial people or something like that. And one man received many informations, and 5 others helped him to create this knowledge called Urantia. And in this book, they call it Avona. It's like a kind of island, metaphoric island and talking about the pleroma that Marcionov talked about it 2 centuries after Jesus. Perhaps this is the spirituality that already exists. So we have many names, many concepts, and there is no condition. I have not statura. Started to say this is the truth, this is not the truth. Urantia is right in these issues and wrong in this. Everything I know is the 56 books I published. I, by myself, right, I don't know if I am sure. All the lectures I speak, I say, I don't know if I am sure. I don't know the truth. I'm still looking for the truth. And I think nobody on earth should have the assumption that know the truth. Because the truth is not one thing that you find in the corner or in a book or in a person. The truth is a puzzle, and perhaps the truth is something that is building all the time of our lives. So I don't feel good when I have to give an opinion about other books, because I know in my own books I think there is many mistakes. So I think everything that a human being does, there is something wrong, because we are imperfect.
One thing that he mentions a lot in his lectures is that the history is always told through a certain perspective, and each person has their own perspective. So many things that he taught us or explained to us, he would say, if it wasn't me telling this here, it was another person telling this situation. So it would be a completely different story sometimes. So the truth, as he's saying, it might have several different aspects or sides to it. And it's hard for any one person to say, I'm the owner of the truth, and this book is the full revelation. As he's bringing what he likes to say, seeds of him thinking about things, or in these other books or other sources where you can also read information that another person's perspective was brought into. And you need to start finding for yourself what you think is the truth, or what you believe more in or not.
I just mentioned Urantia, like just like from a source.
Yeah,
like,
it's a very good source.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's talking also about the source
the spiritual
The,
Oh.
the human
How can we
situation.
connect?
Okay.
Yeah, the human situation right now, what you could do.
Okay, talking
In
about
your
that.
opinion, please do that.
Talking about that, I do not consider Russia a very good source in this matter, right? Because everything we have to learn about how to nature of mankind can elevate. Everything was said 5,000, 4,000 years ago, in my opinion. I created a discipline for myself called mentalma, is mind and soul together. In Portuguese, we say mentalma. And this is the way I found to a person like me. I do not have faith. I deal with spirits, with some strange people that are not human. I deal with many strange things, but I do not trust in anything I heard, I hear. I don't know if I suppose I understand is a right. I'm not sure. And I tried to do nothing about it, but uh, I created a nickname because I did not want to, as the one who was writing those strange things. So uh, I deal with spirits. I know many things about spiritual revelation that was done in the last century in France by 1857, Book of Spirits, and four more books. I know everything about Orphic mythology that is a kind of spiritualism. I studied and practiced many lines or many styles of yoga, and I found my way to do it. That is good for me. I don't know if it will be good for anyone, but if I'm sure in what I think I am discovering, everything that was put until our life, we have to throw away everything. Lao Tse was a man who lived 2,600 years ago in China. He's the man who codified the Tao in English. Lao Tse used to say every day a wisdom person has to learn something new and has to discard something that
He
learn
thought was true.
because what to call the truth is something that yeah, always in movement. So the yoga I knew from our masters of the past, yoga that brings you to give your devotion to one God, Krishna, Brahma, Shiva, anyone you think may be a God. Now, in spirituality, we know that things that
Constant satisfaction, permanent satisfaction.
permanent state of, yeah, it's dangerous because we are not living in paradise. We live on earth. And here we have chaos. And here we have many people suffering, many animals suffering, many things strange happening that needs actions, attention, critical sense. But if you all the time you are, so here we have perhaps a kind of problem in our mind. We are talking about sickness in this state of being. And all the religions invite his their faith, their followers, to do that. To cry to Krishna, you have to spend Krishna, 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 Hari Hari. Okay, is it good? While you are singing, you are not doing anything wrong. You are not killing nobody. You are good people, right? But again, life needs life action. If you pray all the day, Ave Maria, Santa Mary, Holy Mary, blah, 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 blah. So let's pray, but not all the time. You have responsibility. So in what I think I know, and I don't like to talk about it, but my achievement in deep state of it's very very singular, and I don't know what kind of God be happy when one person is spend many time if we have many things to do here, right? So I have problems to tell you. This one is very good to achievement of spiritual. So I think each person has to find your way. Buddha has already said 2,600 years ago that we have to know that suffering really exists because we think we know suffering exists, but we don't know. We are suffering, so we don't know. If we know, nós não sofreríamos. If we knew, yeah. So we have to realize that suffering is it's real. Why do we suffer? Buddha said, because we apegado values to appease to money, old opinions, truths, persons, husbands, wives, sons, daughters. We may love everybody, but not to feel possession. If we had some kind of possession, even a simple opinion, but if you have to, so you suffer, you'll be suffering. So Buddha says, do not go the way that everybody goes. Try to find your way, your path, without excesses, extremes, in the middle. Yeah. So, if you do that, so he called about the nirvana. Nirvana is not the paradise, it's a state of mind, it's a state of consciousness that you produce in your own self in accordance to your during your life. So the mente alma was a kind of yoga that I created to my own self. We have 8 books that talk about mental, 8 modules, huh?
Modules.
In Portuguese, not in English, that I explain what I did to myself. But I do not intend to teach it to anybody because I don't know if it will be good for. But that's what I can offer. But if I will say to you, it's very, very important a human being read, know the spiritual revelation that Allan Kardec produced in the last century. It's very important to read Ramana Maharishi, is a Hindu master. It's very important to understand Buddhism in many of their concepts, talking about enlightenment, right? Here, talking about spiritualism, not about religion, but because religion is faith, belief. And here, the enlightenment is not a question of belief or faith, it's a question of mergulhar em si mesmo.
Go deep
Deep
inside
inside.
yourself, yeah, experience.
Like to close your eyes for everything around and you just
And I'll have to tell you one thing more. Perhaps the main important thing I did in my life with my own self was to learn not to act in first impulse. Because our brain, in each second, is invaded for more than 400 billions of bits, informations, that enter in our neurons by milhares of dendritos and yeah, in its process, and an axon, that is so the axons in our brain reproduces the answer of process of those informations, and in this result comes to the lobe frontal
Front lobe.
and create a sensation that there is somebody here inside us that will be ourselves, but it's false. The same way broadcast a radio speaks, but there is nobody inside. There is nobody inside us. If you open this body, you will see a podridão organizada como quer. But it's function. But there is nobody inside here. So where is our self? Is not inside. What we have inside is the sensation of neurons producing one answer, and each second, and we feel that it's me, but it's not me. So, if you learn how to observe this first me, you are going to discover that there is inside us another me, profound,
A deeper
one, who emerges if you use the rhythm, a different rhythm in your breathing. And if you put your mind as an observer, not as a one who is usufruindo, using the emotions with in accordance to what you are seeing, smelling, listen, or doing. If you just observe, you will realize another truth, another face of truth that is disturbed too. Many things we think that represents my many things we think that we are acting is just the kind of answer that happen inside our brain, and the sensation creates another sensation that there is me here. But when you observe, you will observe many thoughts coming in your mind, many feelings, many wills, many things but you are only the one who is observing, not acting. If you do that many times during your day, during your life, you will discover that the first me is a slave of a construction that passed through our brain and move it in the direction to emerge a sensation of one kind of self in that brain, but it's false. And I will tell you, this body has already died 2 times. And in both situations, I was only observing. And I saw myself outside of body, and the doctor's shock. And was the best situation I ever had. The best feeling I ever had was in that moment, because I practiced in the Bardo Todol, was a Tibetan book of the death. Bardo Todol, I don't know if you know. There is a discipline how to die well, called POA or something like that. Yeah? And I studied POA. I studied everything I could study, and I put in my life and try to be a human being who is seeking for the truth, who is seeking for the better way to walk through the berço até a cova, from birth. And during this walk, eu cobro de mim mesmo. I demand for myself in all of my moments. I demand from my own self that I express dignity to life, for myself, for people who live with me. I don't know if I really get, but I try. The sense that I'm trying is everything for me. The result is not very important, but the sense that I'm trying. So this is the best exercise, talking about spiritual exercise to enlightenment, or to be peacefully, to be clean, to feel yourself clean, to connect to source. And I do not did that to be connected to anything, just to my own consciousness. But it's inevitable. You connect everything. Yeah.
We are gonna do one more question, and then we'll have a break, if that's all right with you. Okay.
So then a lot of people say, and there's books written about Jesus going to Kashmir. So it seems to me how you're talking is very Buddhist. I was a Buddhist also for many years, and is it possible that he understood that?
I'll tell you. I'll explain to you. When I referred to the fifth gospel called Thomas' Gospel, who is Thomas? In the beginning of this gospel, Thomas is called the twin. His name was Judas Didymus Thomas. Didymus is an expression in Greek that means twin. And Thomas was an expression in Aramaic that means twin. Because really, Jesus was born without Mary and Joseph have any kind of sexual intercourse. But after Jesus was born, they had intercourse and had sons and daughters. One of them was the face of his mother, called Judas. But Jesus was the face of his mother too. Mary, Jesus, and one of his brothers and one of his sisters, the face of Mary. So Jesus was not twin, but the people called Judas the twin as a kind of joke of
how close they looked at each other.
so. This is the first fact you have to know. The second one, Joseph of Arimathea. Joseph of Arimathea was a friend of Joseph, Jesus' father. And Joseph of Arimathea was a rich man, a businessman. And when Joseph died, father of Jesus died, Joseph of Arimathea that had many caravans to many parts of the world. So Joseph convenceu Maria, convinced Mary that Thomas, Tiago, the oldest brother of Jesus, and the other ones could be working in the oficina and invited Jesus to be his trust man in the caravans that brings his products to many other places. So after 3 years hesitating, Mary agreed. So Jesus, when he had 17, 18, 16 years old, something like that, he began to travel as the representative of José of Arimathea in his caravans and goes to the north of Europe, goes to Persia, goes to Egypt. In fact, here I have to tell you another. Jesus, when he was 10 or 9 years old, one time Mary and Joseph took his sons and daughters to Jerusalem. One time in a year, all the families went to Jerusalem to the Pascha and many other things. And sometimes Jesus lost from his fathers and was in Synedrio, and here
The
wise men talking about Hakima. Hakima in the Solomon book that belongs to the Old Testament at that time is a Greek. Okay, forget. So Jesus, when he was a child, he listened a wise man talk, reading the book of wisdom of Solomon, and the wise man, because Hakima is the director of God, assistant of God, and Jesus, when the child, who is Hakima? And the wise man explained, and Jesus. So when Jesus was coming back home with his father asked him, what did he ask to the wise man? So Jesus explained to his father, I asked him, who is Hakima? And father, do you know who is Hakima? Joseph said, no, I don't know. Mary, do you know? No, I don't know. And Joseph asked Joseph of Arimathea, his friend, about the Hakima, and he doesn't know either. So Jesus had many questions that nobody in your convivence
in his good answer.
Could answer. So Joseph of Arimathea sent Jesus to places where he could find the three magos, the three kings of that visited Mary when Jesus were born.
I don't know how to say it. When Jesus was born, he was visited by three
Wise men, yeah.
wise men.
So this place, Persia, Egypt, Babylon, blah 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 blah, and Jesus went to India in one of these caravans and spent some years, from 22 to 25, if I'm not wrong, or something like that, in India. And the people of India, who doesn't want that he come back to his land, want to leave to his land. So Jesus promised to the Hindu people that he will have to leave, but in future he will send a representative of him, and that's what he did. So when he came back and near your the age of 30 years, he began to his teachings, and he asked his brother called Thomas, the twin. He said to him, after my death, when possible, I would like that you go to India because I promised it. So after his death, his brother Thomas went to India and died in India in an old age. And he became known as Isa, Isa or something like that. Everybody knew that there wasn't Jesus, but it took place in the 1st century. But in the 7th century, when Islam became to be organized, Gabriel said to Muhammad that Jesus did not die in the crucifixion because Jehovah was still furious with Jesus, and now the chosen ones were Arab people, not more Jewish. So the same God, the same entity called Jehovah, showed himself to Muhammad and was called Allah, but it's the same entity. And Gabriel, the angel of Allah, who speaks with
Dictated.
dictated to Muhammad, said that Jesus didn't die. Because why did Gabriel do this? Because if Jesus had died, he had resurrected. And as resurrected, Jesus explained that Jehovah was a sick entity. So if he didn't die in his crucifixion, the resurrection
Never took place.
never took place. So in Islam, the news that Jesus didn't die in crucifixion was really planted as fake news just to do diminish Jesus and to
Elevate.
Muhammad as the last prophet. And Gabriel said to Muhammad that Jesus was a good prophet, but just prophet, not God, not the one who resurrected himself. This is the history.
All right.
We have
So-
a break now.
Yeah, let's have a break. About 20 minutes. Something like that. And then probably we will come back to wrap this up and finish with some other questions. Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you support. For now. So I will sing you a song of 1 minute, and after I will explain the lyric, right?
Lyric.
Lyrics. It's very simple.
A mesinha também. Close enough.
All alone hurting souls, the ones who really love you, walk up and down outside the wall. Some hand in hand, some gather together in bands. The bleeding hearts and the artists make their stand. And when you there all beggar and foster, oh, it's not easy. Banging your heart against some mad bugger's wall. Banging your heart against some mad bugger's wall. It's Roger Waters, The Wall. I don't know if you know Pink Floyd. Waters in this lyric shows somebody inside a circuit, a wall, a circles, a matrix, and somebody out there trying to begging against the trying to this kind of metaphor, this kind of image we can try to observe what happens between us and the spirits, the good spirits. The good spirits, here I'm talking about not good and bad, but this wisdom minds that try to teach, to show, to ask for mankind, to really what is important in life. And the great mistake we made, or the great mistake we were obligated to do it, was the devotion vicious. Because at this point, a human being does not wake up your own potentials. He transfers to gods, to false gods, to give them ways to fix, to adjust what they want in our DNA. As I tell you before, as I was talking before, when you use some kind of brief discipline and in certain states of mind, you offer your light, your vibration, your perfume to. It's very beautiful, a human condition to do that, but it's so fragile. It's a moment so delicate because these cowards, they aproveitam esse momento, take advantage exactly at this moment to take some genotype sequence of our DNA. The question is, it's what kind of bad thing it may produce in our body or in our mind. Is nothing. There's no problem. The problem is you think you became vicious in this kind of giving himself or his own self to anybody who is out there, because looking in a different way, the lyric of the song I sang to you, out there, depending who we are talking about, there are so many people, so good people. We have many problematic entities, persons, beings, and we have to know that, because we have to play a different music and a different dancing with our own DNA to protect our future sons, sons-in-law, other human generations, that we have to fight now to protect, because with us, the game is done. That's all right. So we live in a matrix. In a matrix, it's very important to know that, to read about it, to watch trilogy Matrix or something like that, because it's a metaphor. It's a metaphoric vision that is very, very, very close to reality. And if we have in our own now old truths that we collect some impulse to be a devoted person, we have to adjust this impulse if we want to arise in spiritual development. Okay? To be a devote of anybody is not a problem. Really, it's not. But as I said, it's a kind of progress, but in a horizontal, very linear, not vertical development, right? So this is the one thing I would like to tell you. Another thing, this meeting here, we have here 12, 15 people. We have thousands and thousands of strange people looking at us. Good people, there is not bad people. And it's not, it's more shamanic than spiritual, the process that they are close to some of you. And it's very beautiful to see. Okay, at least 10 of you are receiving and giving, are changing energy with. So I don't know. I think I know somebody, but not everybody. So it looks like that this meeting here was has good taste, spiritual taste for everybody. I hope so. It was good for you too. Say to you, if you have one question, comment, you can.
I was just talking to Enrique yesterday about how, at the moment for me on my journey, I feel very disconnected from the human side of myself because I don't like what I see in humanity. And it's a very kind of feeling like I don't fit in, or that I should be somewhere else, not in a way that I want to leave or anything, but I find it very hard to connect with. What did I say to you yesterday? With the world, but it's I'm not enjoying the human experience at the moment.
Two.
Three.
Three. All of them. It's very, I find it very so I do Reiki, I suppose with the amount of empathy sometimes that I feel, I find it very hard just to be around people all the time. because and I'd nearly lock myself away quicker. I tend to come together with the people that I'm meant to be with. So myself and Sandra are like that. But just at the moment, it's kind of like I don't know where. It's like it's ebbing and flowing, and I feel like I'd rather be further down the line than we are already. It's impatience, maybe, I don't know.
It's the walk through the valley.
Yeah, it's difficult, but like today has helped a lot with it. But I suppose I need to find more ways to bring myself back down to enjoying the human experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you were talking about the yoga and things like that you've done for yourself, would it be doing things like that to ground myself again, to bring myself back down to it, or what do I do? Help.
I know you asked him the question, and I'm sure he can help me and compliment. But
We're talking too much about this matter, so
I think that as he mentioned before, talking about Jesus and coming to understand our reality, he always mentions that it's a small group of people that are going to be involved in these matters. We can't expect that everybody is going to understand this, or we will be willing to accept this truth, let's put it this way, because of religions and other dogmas. It's more comfortable for them, as he was just talking right now, to put faith or your belief in an outside entity instead of yourself, and you kind of don't take responsibility for the things you need to. So with the yoga that he developed for himself, which is called Mentalma, and again, he's not preaching that to anybody. That's his way of dealing with things. Each person has their own way. It is a way for you to bring some peace of mind and calmness to your everyday life. And I also think that the other aspect that he brought of not doing things in the first impulse, where you watch the scenario go by and you don't react to it, and you don't make yourself attached to it, you just look at it as something passing by, you tend to have an easier way to dealing with things and realizing how things are in that way. You tend to feel the way you're feeling right now with this disconnect. You don't feel, you belong in a certain area or with certain people. And I'm sure a lot of us here have the same feelings too. We end up tending to talk a lot between each other because we kind of feel the same things, and we have some of the same ways of thinking in certain aspects. So your development is always something that needs to be done alone. It's not something that you can force other people to do with you, or try to convince them to do that with you. It needs to be with yourself. And it's hard to say that, and it's hard to accept that, but we come to this alone and we leave alone. We do have friends, we have spiritual people that help us, races or beings, whatever you want to call them. But at the end, you need to do the work yourself. So if I were to help with anything that you're saying, because I feel a little bit the way you do too, it's hard to see the news, it's hard to see how people think and how people respond to things. But it's been like this since the beginning. Unfortunately, we do live in a creation that is chaos. It's complicated, not just for us, for all other races and for animals and for everything. It's a struggle every day. But if you can start putting into your routine, it's extremely stressful at a time where there was not many computers or things like that. He had hundreds of people in front of him. My check bounced. I have no money. I went alone the whole day. He said, I'm going to go crazy with this. I can't take this every day. But I need to work. I need to feed my family. So how can I do two things at the same time and have a little bit more peace of mind? That's where he started to develop the breathing technique, which calms his mind down, brings a little bit more serenity, and helps you deal with the everyday struggles of life. In the beginning, it's hard. I tried doing that too. My wife tries doing that. You have to remember yourself constantly. Breathe, breathe. He even jokes. I used to put signs all over the place on his motorcycle, on the window, at work. He would look at the sign, breathe. Oh yeah, let me breathe. Get on the motorcycle, breathe. Oh yeah, I need to breathe. But after some time, it starts to become second nature. And then you start to bring this rhythm into your life where you can maintain a little bit more, the calmness inside. Mm-hmm. And when that comes, then it's easier for you not to react in the first impulse of somebody comes in the store, doesn't treat you really well. Your reaction, I want to say something back to that person, but wait a second. What he's doing right now, breathe gently. Maybe that person's having a bad day. Maybe that person's struggling too, So I know it's hard for us to always have to kind of understand the other person's side, but we're all humans and we all have faults and problems, right? So some of the subjects that he brings and some of the things that are being brought back to our knowledge, I think will help in this journey of yours. But you have to remember, it's always going to be a small group of people. Yeah. It's not going to be, I want the whole world to be like I am. That's not going to happen. And that's a hard pill to swallow because you always expect everybody to move forward, to get better, to improve. Yeah. And unfortunately, because of different circumstances of life experiences, these people are just not capable of doing that.
About having a better world for our children and things like that. It's wanting that to have happened yesterday, and I suppose where I am in my journey, I'm able to, with my children, like we do meditation and things like that at home, and they're only small, and people are like, your children meditate, and they're looking at me like I have 10 heads, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's lovely to sit and be still and quiet. So at the moment, I think it's just finding it very difficult to be outside my family's protected bubble of kind of what we're doing, and it's also the kind of want to help people while keeping kind of ego down and not letting the two kind of interact, if that makes sense.
Because he has a phrase that Gandhi says a lot, which is be yourself, the change you want to see in the world. So everything starts with us, it needs to start with us at some point. And as you start to follow kind of that truth, it will start to become apparent to the people around you that either they're not going to stay close to you because they just don't, feel the empathy or the attraction, or you will start to have closer to you people that are more like-minded to your thoughts.
Yeah, there are things we know. There are things we don't know, but we think we know. There are things we really don't know. We don't know if really there is a God, if Jesus really existed, and if he had a mustache. Many things we don't know. But we used to collect certainties and collect these truths, even we don't know. But one thing we know, the importance of the good, do bem. This we know because we want people act with us with kindness. To do well. To do well. The concept of so, right. So we know that do the best thing you can do the do well, is very important for our life, for our children, for our, so there is a scene in Senhor dos Anéis, Lord of the Rings. I think most of you, Sam and Frodo was to bring the ring of to the Mordor mountain, and some part of the story, Frodo collapses and gave up. And Sam said to Frodo, Mr. Frodo, get up, get up. We have to do it, we have to go. And Frodo said, oh, I'm tired, I give up. There is no reason to and to continue. And Sam said, no, there is one reason. And Frodo said, which one? The well, the good that there is in the road. So this is one thing we know for sure. It's enough to give us a sense of life. Even we do not find other sense in religion, in this or that. The good in our hearts to offer, at least to the people we love. So this is the most important thing. Here is our dignity, our dignification as a human being. I have shame. I feel shame of being alive. That's right.
I am ashamed.
Eu tenho vergonha de existir.
I am ashamed of. I am ashamed of.
Yeah. Because I discovered the truth. And it's disturbing. For disturbed. My body already died sometimes, and somebody, because I didn't thankful until today, never, because I will feel hypocrite if I say, oh, thank you for saving my life. And neither in one time or another, I asked, oh, please save me. No, I prepared myself to die with some dignity. So this is my law. Law I have. This is the I have is important. This is my supreme concept I have. Trying to be a person that honors this concept is my religion, right? And I respect everything. I read everything. I study everything. I embrace everything. But eu não me levo a sério.
I don't take myself
I
seriously.
don't take myself serious. I'm really ready to die anytime. Yeah. Every day I prepare myself to go, and I'm still here. So I love my children. So that's what I can tell you. And one more. In this life, I learned how to create my sensation of being, my sensation of existing. It's all right. Mankind feels their sensation that life imposes to each one of mankind. But some of us, some of human beings, learn how to create your own sensation. I did using, again, breathing techniques and being an observer more than these two things allowed Do not be acting all the time. Observe and just act when I want. Obviously, that we have moments in our day that we have to put, you have to act in the first impulse because we are doing some things that in our work, obligations, and many other things. But always, when it's possible, you restart your body breathing in the deepest way you can do it, in a deeper way. Put yourself in a mode of do not feel. So, with the time, you can create your own sensation when you are observing life, people, universe, reality, and you are operated yourself based on the sensation you create through respiration and some kinds of meditation. Um, we must do it. We can do it. We shall do it. But we have to want to do it.
Maybe the disconnect is not such a bad thing then, because it gives you the option to sit back, observe.
Separation of the people.
About being disconnected, also, uh, some things ring. For instance, Enrico said Jesus was the first being to talk about love, things like that. And I agree. I think I never heard anybody doing that before him. But where did he bring that concept from, right? Uh, there must be a place where being nice to others and loving your brothers and sisters as you love yourself is common ground, right? There must be a place where he took this behavior from, or he brought this behavior with him somehow. At least I think so. Here on earth, it's very hard to be happy, to be laughing all the time when there is somebody starving next to you or in a different country, or somebody unhappy in your family with problems, or it's drama all around this world, and not to mention this whole creation, because according to Elam, things are even worse in other worlds, in other with other civilizations. So I relate to that. Is very hard to be happy if you are surrounded by drama, right? You have to create a sensation from within, and it's not necessarily being happy, but being in peace, because that's probably more reasonable. You can feel in peace although you are in chaos, but it's hard to be happy in chaos. But in peace you can feel, right? It's not so utopia, let's put it like that. It's a long path, maybe takes several lives, maybe takes just one life, maybe takes 1 week, who knows. But the breathing technique for sure has helped a lot of people over the years.
Because myself and Sandra, anytime it gets really busy or stressful or something happens in the shop, we both look at each other and we go, inhale, exhale.
And about the origin of the where did this come from, as a suggestion, maybe you could talk a little bit about it. uh, your English is already at
That's for next year.
yeah. You have a question?
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
just finish what Rodrigo was saying here. I'm gonna use his words as mine, but this is coming from him. So there's an exercise that he does every day in the morning and that he teaches in his Mentama course, which might be helpful to everyone here, which is when he wakes up in the morning, he doesn't jump out of bed and, okay, time to rush, coffee, get to work. He sits down for a second and starts doing his breathing technique for a little while, which brings his mind to down, or for the things that he needs to do that day. So you kind of already have a beginning of the day a little bit more structured and peaceful, where you can start. Then you're going to have to go into the world and do your things.
Yeah.
But you don't already wake up and arguing and yelling at somebody else. Exactly. So wake up, sit down for a second on your bed, start breathing, bring your body to come to a peaceful state. And automatically, as you start doing that, your head starts to calm down, thoughts start to become what you need to do and what your purpose is. And then
And at the end of the day?
And then at the end of the day, I was going to get to that point. He has a technique, which is kind of what he says. He does a flushing of the archives in his head, which means that he'll try to go through the events of the day and people that he met, things that happened during the day. And his first thought is, did I treat or did I do this with dignity? If I tried my best, as he says, I'm in peace with myself. Sometimes I might do things right. But the important thing is to try always to do things with dignity. If you feel that you feel with somebody, or you didn't speak to somebody correctly, or something went wrong, you keep that mental record. That I'm going to try to improve that. And the next time I have an encounter with somebody, I'll try to act differently. But don't hold on to that. Remember, you can't keep holding on to emotions and things that bring. You understand it, you process, and then you let it go. It was a learning. Next, with your new thoughts, your new reactions to that. And as this becomes a routine, the tendency is that over the weeks, the months, the years, this is not a fast process, it's a slow process. You start to adapt that in your everyday life. And then you start to realize that you start treating people differently, you react to things differently, you don't withhold things as much, and life seems to become a little bit more bearable.
I'm 64, 5 years old, and I'm completely sure that during the last 32 years of my life, every night, I demand for my own, I did it with dignity. Mm-hmm. So I know what I did in my life. Yeah. Because mankind cannot look back and ask what I did. I know what I did. Because every day I practice this difficult thing. That's what he explained.
Accountability.
No, it's not difficult. It's easy, but you have to think it's important for you and try to do. If not, many people will bang against the wall and try to tell, do it. As the lyric of the music.
Thank you. So my question is about what you're talking about, and when you are like in a stage of expansion or connected, and then there's some beings that is still something from our DNA. My question is, the intention that we put on it, in which home to connect can change something. The second is about if our small free will that I believe that we have a bit can interfere when we have the intention to connect with what else. And because once I was meditating and then I received a message and I couldn't decode so easy and so perfectly, I guess. But now what you gave to me, I understand better. It's like was something interesting, because when I try to connect and says, "Hey, wait a minute, you as a human race decided like to leave the shadows in a period, like to find out the light, but then in this moment you're sending your energy, this kind of energy, dense energy, to feed some beings, and now you want to make the opposite totally, and just send, you feed the other, and should be like the balance, because you are everywhere until the moment that as a human being and a human race you find out that you don't need neither sides. It's just you to feed yourself with this energy. And this is my question is like, how can we understand this kind of stealing, because as I understand, our potentials are in our blood, and if my free will can like protect first. I don't know if I made it myself clear.
But
Thank you.
let me tell you, I have two kinds of meditations, speaking in general, right? One of them is when I have some some purpose, some motivation, something to do it. I know a person I love or a person that I don't know. I can send my energy or some part of my energy, so I do it by myself. But if we are going to talk about state deepest states of mind, here I have no intention. I do it, but it's not Rogério, it's not my ego or myself who will be who will be in charge of what will happen. Because Rogério, a human being, doesn't know what to do in many of these situations. The spirits that are behind our personalities, they know. So I don't want to be Rogério all the time. In fact, I know I'm not Rogério. Rogério is the name that my father and mother they gave to this body. But Rogério is not here inside this body. Rogério is the name of this body. But when this body dies, myself continues to feel a sensation as if I am Rogério, our Rogério. So I tried during my life to not to be Rogério when this body died, because my spirit, he will decide who kind of being or who kind of sensation he will have after the experience he had through this body. I know that Rogério is just a kind of illusion, but a real illusion, because in fact, Rogério exists. Each one of us really exists. But we exist in this reality, not in all of the realities. We may be used in other realities by our spirit, but there will be not your own vontade, will that will decide that you are going to appear in some kind of reality for X or Z people. So I know that in human condition, all of us, we are so small. we are insignificant. But each one of us has an importance that we cannot imagine because each one of us is a part of one puzzle. And if we are absent in this picture, it will be not complete. So each one of us has the same importance. Then, but for this picture, this concept in Hinduism is called Ishvara, a reconstruction of a fallen God needs the participation of all their creatures that he created to do instead of him. To do what? To build this puzzle, this big picture. So, when we do some kind of yoga, when we do some kind of meditation or something like that, we have to be conscious that part of this experience, our human body, myself, can do it. But in the major part of that, Rogério, this body will be moving the DNA, but the spirit I have with the sense of Rogério, they are working together in something bigger. And sometimes Rogério do not know what does it mean. But if Rogério, as a human being, can pulse in a way that can be perceived by this kind of reality, so the human condition is prepared, is being prepared to be used by our spirits in the first moment in many of kind of realities to help people that are inside the wall. The wall they live in.
What you said then, I'm sorry. What you said about and when frequency or intention you go like and adoration, something like that.
Fanatism.
Like adoration, quando a gente adora ou é fanático e aí entra naquela frequência de...
You go only to one place, to the place where the saint, the God of or the being that you are giving your devotion send you. Krishna, the last 4,000 years on earth, the major spirituality we have that really works, it's what we call in Hinduism, Krishna's Loka. Loka of Krishna.
Realm.
His realm. Right? So, really, somebody, if you are a devote of Krishna, when your body dies, Krishna helps your spirit and bring you to his Loka. It's a fact. Jesus promised something that's
Similar.
similar, but Jesus cannot do it because an order of a problem that we are not going to talk here. But Krishna really does. But everybody in the Loka of Krishna is in that
Permanent state of
adoration. It's good. You feel good. But again, somebody needs to work like the chaos. And I call it in Portuguese a majestosa inutilidade. Eu não sei
Majestic
how
inutility.
to say
Yeah. Useless, majestic uselessness.
What is the meaning of God and somebody if we have some people suffering all the time? I said it before. So we have this problem. The spirituality that we call Christian spirituality or Catholic spirituality is so problematic because the egos of their partnerships, they are all the time in spirituality, continues to remain apegados,
Yeah, attached.
attached.
Okay.
Krishna in his loka and everybody that is there, they do not have this kind of problem.
Every time connected, and they are like taking some information. Like after you just have the key and okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are building another kind of spirituality for people, perhaps like we are not so devout, and we are trying to find the truth, seeking the truth, trying to find better way to feel ourselves while we're living, to feel instead of oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Thank you.
So we are in a transition epoch time because all humanity was conditioned to do that. Oh God, oh God, oh God. There is no time for revolutions, violent revolutions. No, there is no time for that. It's over. The only thing we can do is here in our own selves, not in,
Stop feeding them and feed ourselves.
just inside of each one of us. You cannot do anything for me. I cannot do anything for you. If we live together, I can only see what you're doing. You can only see what I'm doing. And if it's useful, we try to learn and put in practice in my life. Jesus said that. Look at me, if I'm doing it as well for you, do it. Take your cross and follow me. We cannot do anything for no one. Only a person can help her own self. And the experience a person could have in the deepest, the deep dives that the person can make in his ocean, spiritual, internal life, it's vivência de cada
Each one's
It's
It's one
experiences.
experience. You can learn, you can listen the experience of A, B, C, but you have to take your own experience. So here, your consciousness, your goes high. I have to tell you, I'm not an example, neither for myself. I do not, not even for myself. Okay, I'm not. I do not. I'm not trying to be example for you. Anyway, okay, I'm not. Every day I made many mistakes, but I am a clean person. Even wrong, I try to realize that I'm wrong. As he was telling, and at the end of the day, I try it. I did all right. I did. I have to apologize. Somebody did that to me, so forget it. So I'm ready to die while this body is sleeping without no problem. Every day, oh, I wake up, I'm still here. Okay, let's begin the day in accordance to my laws, to my decisions, not anxiety. That's what I do with myself. But as I told you before,
Just wanted to go back for what he was mentioning a few minutes ago, just to maybe explain to everybody so everybody can be kind of more or less on the same level. But he uses an example of an actor. An actor during his life, he interprets many roles, but he's none of those characters that he actually played. He's the main actor. So in this case, the spirit would be the actor, and our different incarnations, our different lives, are the actors, the characters that we had in these different scenes. And the spirit will appropriate what he thinks is best of each of those different characters. If it's not something good, he'll put it aside. If it's something that's interesting for him, and he even said that if the spirit thinks that that character was meaningful or very interesting, he might even take the form of that character for some time because it was something valid for him. So we kind of can think of spirituality in that way. We have a spirit that has different experiences, and from those experiences we gather that information. None of these experiences is the self, is the sole person, let's put it that way. You have a spirit behind them that's managing those existences. Hope that makes it a little bit clearer.
Of course. One question?
Um, just just to go back in time again. So if Mary, the Virgin Mary, or she had Gaulish DNA, then so Joseph Arimathea, I understand, maybe I'm right, I don't know, I read that he came to France. He took blood from Christ when he was on the cross, and he took the Holy Grail to France, so they say. And they came with Mary Magdalene. What is the truth in this?
well, I don't know about the truth, but I know from spirituality, right? And I will be considered the last question because of the time, okay? Because we have to come back to Jesus never had anything talking about sexual intercourse with relationship with Mary Magdalene. Okay. In spirituality, what we know is that Jesus, he really loved someone, but she was not Mary Magdalene. She was one of the Lazarus' sister. Lazarus, but Jesus knew that his life will be so he never moved forward. But Mary of Magdalene, she was clever. She was independent. Independent. She was different from the majority of human of that time. So when Jesus died, after his death, his spirit chose Mary to be the one who will take the notes about this new revelation the living Jesus was doing at that time.
And many others.
Many others. Mary spent 3 or 4 decades of her life organizing, with the help of 7 other women, in some of the books, if I'm not wrong, Bartholomew's Gospel, The name of some of these women are here, are their record. And in fact, the most important person of Christianism was Mary of Magdala. But Jesus was the personal character,
The main character.
the main character, but the most important person who acts. First one, Paul and Mary, but in different ways. And Mary Magdalene, in fact, she had child, but with another man who got married with her when she was 40 something, 40 years old, or something like that. And in fact, Mary was not endeusada, not worship, but many people began to protect Mary because she became to be persecuted for human tropas de soldados do Império Romano.
Roman troops or legions.
Yeah. Mary, the mother of Jesus at that time, was running away from persecution too with John. John was the only apostle who survived, who was living at that time. And here we're talking John the Baptist?
No.
No.
John the Apostle.
The apostle, the evangelist. John had 16 years was 16 years when he was invited by Jesus to be one of them. So the year of 50 or 54 after Christ, all the apostles had died, not John. John lived until the end of the first century. John wrote his gospel when he was near 90 years old, and he wrote the book called Apocalypse when he was almost 100 years. So he lived too much, and he took Mary because Jesus asked him, "Take care of my mother." Jesus do not ask it to his brothers or sisters. Asked John, "Take care of my mother." And John, and when the Roman general called Titus invaded Jerusalem and destroyed, all the Christians fugiram, ran away, escaped in boats in the directions of the islands of Greece. And Mary, mother of Jesus, went with John to Ephesus in Turkey, and she died there. She died in a place near Ephesus. John came to another Mary's death. Patmos is the name of the island where he began to live until he lived 100 years. Mary of Magdalene lived too much either, but she, with this husband, it was a businessman, a rich businessman, who protected her and who paid for the divulgação dos manuscritos.
For the dissemination of the manuscripts. Yeah.
The manuscripts of the living Jesus, right? So there is store, a history here. Everything was after canceled by Catholicism Church when they want to erase it. Any news about Mary Magdalene. So her story, her history, and her family. His daughter, she had one daughter, not son but daughter. So a group of descendants of of Magdala ran away to France. So until this point, we have some kind of sureness to certainty to talk about it. But after that, began the Merovingius history. Yes, that it mixed with the Mary Magdalene story that I suppose it's not true. There is something false here because when in the 66th century, the Frank people that will be French later, they observed that the church, the Roman church, had the biggest story at that time. So the French took for them the history of Mary Magdalene as a way to dispute with the Roman some kind of importance. And after that, we had Carlos Magno with Sacro Império Romano. I don't know how can I say this in so I do not trust in this mixing that in some point in the third, fourth, or fifth, or 60th century, somebody did taking Mary Magdalene history and the Merovingian. So I stopped here. But Dan Brown created an excellent and wonderful move and book exactly from this point. So he canceled the husband of Mary Magdalene and put Jesus as if had a child with Mary Magdalene. So thank you very much. I'm sorry for my mistakes. Excuse me if I did something desagradável,
Unpleasant.
But to seek the truth, remember, it's disturbing. So
Until next time.